always loved hiking alone. Most people think that's crazy. Maybe they're right, because after what happened to me on the Pacific Crest Trail, I don't think I'll ever spend another night alone in the woods again. Last summer, I planned an 8-day section hike. The idea was simple: park my truck at the end of the trail, catch a shuttle to the trailhead, then hike back over the course of a week. I'd done solo trips before, so nothing about it worried me. I had everything I needed: a lightweight tent, enough food for the trip, a water filter, my rifle, and a satellite emergency beacon that I hoped I'd never have to use. The first few days were exactly what I'd hoped for: towering pines, crystal clear streams, fresh mountain air, miles of silence. It was peaceful. Sometimes I'd hike for hours without seeing another person. Every evening I'd leave the trail just far enough to hide my campsite. I never liked camping where random hikers could stumble across me. Looking back, that decision may have made me even easier to find. On the third night, I woke up for no reason. No sound, no movement, just that horrible feeling, like someone was standing outside my tent. You know that instinct that tells you something isn't right, even when everything is quiet? I grabbed my flashlight and my rifle before stepping outside. The beam swept across the trees. Nothing. The woods were completely still. No footsteps, no voices, not even the wind. After checking around camp, I crawled back inside. That's when I noticed my wallet was gone. I dumped every piece of gear onto the floor of the tent: sleeping bag, clothes, food, everything. Nothing. Cash, cards, driver's license, gone. I convinced myself I'd somehow lost it on the trail. It didn't make sense, but neither did someone sneaking into my tent without waking me. Over the next 2 days, more things disappeared. A lighter, my pocket knife, a few protein bars, even an extra pair of shorts. Little things, random things, nothing valuable enough to explain the theft. That's when I finally admitted the truth. Someone had been visiting my campsite every single night, and they wanted me to know it. The worst part, they never touched my rifle. It almost felt like they were saying I could take it if I wanted to. From then on, I tied my tent shut from the inside before going to sleep. Every little sound kept me awake: branches snapping, leaves moving, an owl calling somewhere in the distance, the wind brushing against the tent. Soon, I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Sleep came in short bursts. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined someone standing inches away, watching me. By the 6th night, I was exhausted. I barely slept. Every shadow looked like a person. Every rustle sounded like footsteps. Then, one night, I actually heard them. Slow, crunch, 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 walking circles around my tent. Not running, not hiding, just walking, patiently, like they knew I was awake. I held my rifle so tightly my hands started cramping. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding inside my ears. Whoever it was never tried coming inside. They just kept walking, round and round and round. After what felt like forever, the footsteps slowly faded into the darkness. I didn't sleep another second. When daylight finally came, I stepped outside expecting to find footprints, but the ground was too dry. There was nothing, no proof, just silence. That morning, I made up my mind. I wasn't spending another night out there. I'd hike straight through until I reached my truck, even if it meant walking after dark. Hours passed. The trail seemed endless. The deeper the evening became, the quieter the forest felt. The sun disappeared. Soon, my flashlight was the only thing cutting through the trees. Every sound echoed. Every shadow looked alive. I kept telling myself, just keep walking. Then, I heard footsteps behind me. Real footsteps. Not my imagination. Not an animal. Someone matching my pace. I spun around and aimed my flashlight toward the trees. Something darted behind a trunk. "Come out!" I yelled. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, a man slowly stepped into the light. He wasn't wearing any clothes, except my missing shorts. His skin was filthy. His body was covered in scratches. Long hair covered most of his face. His eyes never left mine. And somehow, he didn't look scared of the rifle pointed straight at him. He just kept walking toward me, one slow step at a time. I fired a warning shot into the ground. The gunshot exploded through the forest. For the first time, he stopped. He stared at me for another second, then turned and disappeared into the darkness, faster than I thought was possible. It was like he'd melted back into the trees. I ran the rest of the trail. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. When I finally reached my truck, I locked every door before calling the police. They searched the area later. They found old campsites, discarded food wrappers, a few signs that someone had been living deep in the forest, but they never found him. No name, no arrest, nothing. To this day, I still think about one question. If he had been stealing my things every night, then how many times had he stood inside my tent, watching me sleep? That's the thought that still keeps me awake.
The footprints in the snow. I don't even know if this is the right place to tell this story. I've told my family, my friends, my neighbors, even a couple of local news stations, and somehow it still doesn't feel like enough. I feel like I need to warn people because I still have no idea who or what kept coming onto my property. This all started years ago, back when my girlfriend and I moved into the old brick house my parents had given us. It had been in my family for generations. The house sat at the very end of a quiet road, and unlike every other house in the neighborhood, ours bordered the woods on two sides. Those woods were massive. As a kid, my brothers and I spent entire summers exploring them, and even after years of wandering, we never reached the end. They always felt endless. Back then, that never bothered me. I actually liked the privacy. One Sunday morning after a fresh snowfall, I walked outside planning to grab my usual coffee. Before I even reached my truck, something caught my eye. Footprints. A single trail stretched across my driveway. At first, I assumed my girlfriend had gone outside before I woke up, but then I noticed where the tracks came from. They emerged through a gap in the fence, from the woods. The trail walked directly to the driver's side of my truck, stopped, then turned around and disappeared straight back into the trees. Nothing led to the house, none of the windows, not even the front door. Whoever had walked onto my property had come all that way, just to stand beside my truck. It gave me a weird feeling, but I convinced myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone got lost, maybe a hunter, maybe some teenager messing around. Eventually, I forgot about it, until 3 winters later. I opened my front door before work and instantly froze. There were footprints everywhere, around every window, across the backyard, along the side of the house. Whoever had been there hadn't just walked through my yard. They had circled my home, slowly, like they were studying it. I checked every corner of the property before leaving for work, making sure nobody was hiding nearby. Then I texted my girlfriend, warning her not to go outside alone. The entire day I couldn't focus on work. Something about those tracks felt wrong. By the time I got home, my girlfriend was already waiting for me outside. She looked pale. Without saying a word, she pointed down at one of the footprints. "Look closer." I crouched down. My stomach dropped. There were no boot prints, no shoe tread, nothing. Just bare human feet. Who walks barefoot through freezing snow? The footprints were perfectly human. Every toe, every heel, every step. But there wasn't a single sign of shoes. My dad told me to grab my rifle and follow the tracks. He'd lived in that house for decades and had never seen anything like it. My girlfriend wanted to call the police immediately. I told her I'd call if I actually found someone. Looking back, that was probably a stupid decision. I followed the footprints deep into the woods. For nearly 30 minutes, everything stayed normal. Then, the trail split in two. I stopped dead in my tracks. There had only been one set of footprints the entire way. Now there were 2, both heading in different directions. I just stood there staring at them. Had someone doubled back? Were there 2 people? Or had someone been following me the entire time? I suddenly realized how quiet the woods had become. No birds, no wind, nothing. The sun was already starting to disappear behind the trees. Every instinct I had screamed at me to leave. So I turned around. I never found out who made those footprints, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been watching me from somewhere between those trees. And the strangest part? A few years later, the footprints came back.